Hello, hello, hello.
Yo, yo, yo. What's good, conspiracy brother?
Hey, how's everything going?
All right, all right.
Pardon,
You want me
pardon my
to?
delay.
Oh, all good. Want me to open it up? You want to open it up? We back, episode 15.
No, you can open it up.
All right, all right, all right, everybody. Welcome back to episode 15 of Uncomfy Truths. I am your co-host, conspiracy brother, conservative brother. Here, my co-host, conspiracy brother. We coming back to you to bring you a hint of uncomfy truth. All right, from a black perspective. Definitely have a lot to talk about. We kind of took a bit of an extended break, but we are back for episode 15. Definitely got a lot to cover. So I definitely want to dive right into it. So let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. First topic we got to talk about Elon Musk and Disney. The war continues. So definitely a lot of interesting things going on with Elon Musk. So I don't know if you can you see my screen.
Yeah, I pulled it up.
All right, awesome. All right, cool. All right, so Elon Musk has intensified his war on Disney and his CEO Bob Iger, asking why the company doesn't suspend its ads on Meta after recent allegations that the content on his website enabled child sex trafficking. Now, the businessman anger toward Disney and Iger started after the company pulled advertising from X, formerly Twitter. Musk bought the social media platform in October 2022 for 44 billion, and has since rebranded it and cut the staff numbers. Newsweek reached out to Musk and Disney for comment via email. Several major companies pulled advertising this month after he publicly endorsed an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory and growing concerns over rising anti-Semitism on X. And once again, Newsweek is kind of hit or miss. They tend to be center, but then they could lean right or maybe lean left here and there. Yeah, we gotta, when they get into anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, we gotta kind of walk with a grain of caution. Take it with a grain of sand. Disney has long been one of the platform's top advertisers, but it joined brands such as Warner Brothers, Apple, and Comcast, and no longer advertising on the platform. Tesla investors have also distanced themselves. Now, in a flurry of tweets posted on X on Thursday, Musk has called out Disney for still advertising on Facebook and Instagram after a lawsuit was filed Wednesday by New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres. All right. So that's all we got. Oh, never mind. It keeps going. The suit was filed under undercover investigation, allegedly revealed myriad instances of sexually explicit content being served to minors, child coercion, and the sale of child sexual abuse material per CNBC. The suit alleges that Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram company, failed to identify predator networks on its sites. Meta has denied those claims. Musk retweeted the CNBC article and said, "Why no advertiser boycott Bob Iger? You are endorsing this material." That's somewhat based. Another X account also tweeted the article sponsored by the Walt Disney Corporation. Musk tweeted this post. Bob Iger thinks it's cool to advertise next to child exploitation material. Real stand-up guy. Businessman didn't stop there as he posted a screenshot of a November 28th piece in right-wing satire Babylon Bee titled Disney Awarded Defense Contract After Producing More Bombs Than Lockheed Martin. Captioning the photo, congratulations on the award, well deserved. Musk then retweeted a post from Colin Rugg, the co-owner of the right-leaning news website Trending Politics. New Mexico has sued Meta and Mark Zuckerberg for allegedly enabling child sex abuse material to be distributed. Rugg wrote alongside screenshots of ads being run by Disney on Meta. Hey, Rob Iger and others, will you be suspending your advertising on Facebook and Instagram like you did with X? Disney is currently running 300 ads for Disney World, Disneyland on Meta. The lawsuit claims Meta was showing sexually explicit material to minors, child sexual coercion, and the sale of sexual abuse material, according to New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres. I answered the question above. No advertiser will not suspend advertising because they're lying hacks. When Musk retweeted the post, crazy that Disney has to be sued to stop this terrible behavior. The Tesla and SpaceX CEO first declared war with Disney when he told Iger to go fuck himself. When he appeared to New York Times Deal Book Summit on November 29th, what this advertising boycott is going to do is going to kill the company. Musk said when asked about Disney and other companies stop advertising on X, the whole world will know that advertisers killed the company. Musk also spoke to Iger directly, saying, don't advertise. If someone is going to try and blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go F yourself. It's a brilliant moment. I saw the video several times. Go F yourself. Is that clear? Iger had spoken to the summit earlier today and also addressed Disney's decision to stop advertising on Musk's platform. I have a lot of respect for Elon and what he's accomplished. We know that Elon is larger than life in many aspects. His name is much connected to the companies he founded or owns. By taking a position in a public matter, we felt the association was not necessarily a positive one for us. All right, conspiracy brother. I think you're gonna start reading every other article. And I'm gonna read you're gonna go back and forth.
Okay.
But I'm ready. So go ahead and give me your thoughts on Elon Musk and this continued war with Disney. Here we are again.
Well, here's the interesting thing, right? Because you have to look at the situation with Facebook and kind of analogous to Twitter or X, however you want to, in kind of one of two ways. Either you look at it and say, well, maybe the internet is such a vast landscape that it's impossible for one company to really police itself completely, no matter how bad they'd want to. Or you'd have to say that if X is guilty of not policing itself, and so we have decided that it is, disadvantageous for us and our company to advertise on their platform any longer, you'd at least have to have that same consistency dealing with Facebook and Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, right?
Right.
And so apparently that's not the case. And so this is kind of one of those situations where you look at free speech and you look at the way some conservatives, and more so now you see a lot of liberals, but especially with the whole anti-Semitism thing, they take this idea that, people can vote with their dollars. And in a way, because the ecosystem is really interdependent on everybody's dollars cycling through it, what you have is advertisers are consumers of a kind because they pay for eyeballs. And corporations, investors, are consumers of a kind because they pay for potential, right? And then the consumer, the end user, is a consumer because you're the end user. You're the last stop for the product. You're the one who all the stuff is geared for. And so, like, in theory, you could say, well, Disney should be able to deny advertising dollars to whoever they want. The issue, though, is that, like me, I don't mess with Florida. That's we've talked about it before. I don't mess with Florida. I don't go there. I don't do business with Florida. I don't, nothing. I've been to Florida since the situation with Trayvon Martin.
Right.
And not necessarily because of Trayvon Martin per se, but it's just more like the politics of Florida in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't go to Florida. I don't mess with Florida. I haven't. So that's been it's been 10 years. And so my individual money, or the money of my immediate family, has not done anything to severely affect the trajectory of the state of Florida. It exists as much as it ever has. It's as popular as it's ever been. What I've done or what my views are about it have really no material effect on what goes on down there. But it's the principle of what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at Disney, if Disney was taking the stance because they believed, hey, this is legitimately a concern we have, and so we're doing this because we have decided that we don't agree with something politically that is being done, I would at least be willing to, I won't say necessarily support or condone or whatever, but I would at least be understanding of it. But when you see that what they're trying to do, the same way they do with YouTube with the adpocalypse, the first and the second adpocalypse, and the way that they have gotten rid of the downvote the downvote thumbnail, the downvote thumb count on YouTube, that was all Disney's. That was all Disney's doing. Disney was responsible for YouTube getting rid of the downvote, right? So what it is it's a type of manipulation. It's a social manipulation. It's a manipulation of how they want consumers and users to perceive what is actually going on, right? Because by getting rid of the downvote button and making it so that you can't see the downvote, the expectation was that, at least that's what they tried to say. Oh, well, the only reason people downvote stuff is because everybody does it, and so they get off on not liking movies or whatever, or people talking about topics we don't like, so we don't want to advertise, and so you cut into YouTubers' revenue. Like people who have channels like ours who talk about things that aren't necessarily popular, or they may be unsavory, uncomfortable, like we, but you could still make a career on YouTube because there's a market for you here of people who feel the same way you do, who have a similar interest in the types of topics that we cover, political or conspiratorial or whatever. But Disney has decided to put their thumb on the scale, just like BlackRock or Blackstone. I always forget if they're different. Vanguard with the whole ESG thing, where you want to try to, like how Disney's making this movie, because Disney gets invested in by these companies. They make these movies like in the Pandaverse, what we were talking about earlier, where you take a movie with a certain character in it and you change it superficially. You don't invest anything in the story itself. But if it's a male, you make it a female. If it's a female, you make it a person of color, quote unquote, or an LGBTQ person. And then you change basically nothing about the actual quality of the film. If anything, you make it worse because it becomes overly preachy and there's no story and there's no character development. and there's no growth or nothing like that. It's all just pandering. It's all just empty pandering to people who, based on how these films have done recently, have no money or no legitimate interest in supporting these films or TV shows or music or whatever, right? And so I'm kind of getting long-winded in them. I apologize, because I wasn't really expecting it to go this far.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the situation we're in. Yeah, Disney can decide not to fund what they want to fund, but to act like this is anything more than them trying to continue to manipulate the populace about what we ought to do as it pertains to how Disney views the world, that's ridiculous, because it is just another example of them putting their thumb on the scale. They want you to accept a world where a man can be a woman, or that anybody can be anything and nothing matters, and words are meaningless and the family doesn't matter, and all this stuff, that for hundreds, if not thousands of years have been the cornerstones of society and civilization, of stable societies and civilization. And then they want to tell you that they're concerned with anti-Semitism. And then you see in Congress, they're either in the process of passing or just passed legislation that considers anti-Zionism, which is a critique of a government, with anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's impossible to take any of this serious. But this is what happens when you limit free speech. The people who limit free speech, the people who get you to believe that censorship is virtuous, or that it can be virtuous, or that the people who want you to censor or want to censor ever have anyone's best interest in mind, sincerely. This should be a wake-up call for you. This should be a wake-up call to let you see that isn't the case. This is always used to attack the people in some capacity. And so eventually we're all going to be living in a sanitized world where you can't say things they don't want you to say. You can't read books they don't want you to read. And because, like in 1984, but because we're so hyper computerized and technologized, you won't even be able to escape, because you have to think when 1984 was written, it was like 1946 or 47. So there was really no concept of the type of computers and technology that we were going to be capable of as a society, but to look at it now and understand it, he was far underselling the potential for authoritarian violence on a populace, because you couldn't conceive of it in the 40s, right? So I'll leave it at there. I was going to say something else, and maybe I'll remember it the more we kind of deal with this topic. Mm-hmm. But Bob Iger, all of them, they're trying to push an agenda, and this is a situation you kind of have to remember. Like, the definition of family friendly is changing, right? If you are the type of person who has the idea that family friendly has a traditional meaning, mom and dad and kids, and everybody is what they are, boy, girl, whatever. If you're of that mindset, in today's time, you can't take for granted that when other people say family friendly, that is what they mean also. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so this is the situation. Even when Bob Iger says, hey, we're a family company, if the definition of family changes, if the definition fundamentally is different now than it was 10 years ago, 15, 20, and more years ago, then now we're talking about something completely different, right? But because of the way all this stuff is being rearranged, they can put the things that would be unsavory for me as a parent, or for somebody else as a parent, hypothetically. And now they have made this okay. They have made this okay for our children to ingest. Like you see kids at drag shows, and they wanted to say, hey, this is perfectly fine. There's no reason why kids shouldn't be at drag shows. Now this is acceptable, right?
Mhm.
But they can determine anti-Semitism is this now. It's anti-Zionism. That's what anti-Semitism is. When you critique a country you don't even live in, right?
Yep.
A country you do not have an allegiance to, no matter what. That is anti-Semitism. And so now that is unacceptable. And so we will infringe upon your free speech as an American, right? You should have the same right to criticize the state of Israel as you do to criticize Russia or China or the Soviet Union or Venezuela or Cuba or whoever.
Or Disney.
Exactly. You should have that same right. And so even, with the people in Congress, you get this, all the professor of MIT, the president of MIT, the president of Harvard, the president of University of Pennsylvania. They may be stupid. They may be the stupidest people on the planet. But that's why they got those jobs. They didn't get those jobs because they were intelligent. They got those jobs because they're good at taking orders. And the thing about people who are good at taking orders is they're not usually good on their feet. So when you have a person who's good at taking orders and you ask them questions that are not scripted, they're usually going to fall flat on their faces. And two, it's still their right to be stupid.
Ain't it?
And this is the thing. We have to learn this. We have to accept and internalize this. Freedom means a freedom to fail. Freedom means the freedom to do what other people don't like, to think what other people don't like, to say what other people don't like, so long as you're not breaking the law.
Yep.
That's what freedom is. We don't have freedom to operate within a framework that the people in charge like. That's not freedom. Like that was one of the things. I don't know if you've ever really watched or heard about Christopher Hitchens. He was a writer. He was an atheist. He died in 2016, and he used to do debates and stuff. He would do debates with theists, and some of them were funny, and it was just interesting to get a different perspective on life from different people. And so I like to listen to debates, And he had a debate about free will, and you can get an idea from anybody. You can get a thought from anybody. And so he says, here's an interesting concept about free will. He said something like, you can't say we have free will because the boss gave it to us. And that's kind of the situation with free speech. You can't say we've got free speech, the government gave it to us. When you look at the Constitution, that's why it's inalienable rights endowed by the Creator, because they were supposed to, and I'm not saying free speech is that, but I'm saying there's supposed to be rights that we understand are basic human natural rights endowed by the Creator. Meaning, hey, from birth, every human has this right, wherever they are on the planet, even if they live in an authoritarian hellscape, they have this right. Whether they can exercise it or not is a different story. And so we have to remember that. You got to be willing to fight for the rights of all people to express themselves. Because if you make a law to capture this person, that law is going to be turned back on you. And Eric Adams is going to figure that out.
Yeah, he about to find out. All right. I'll give my quick thoughts on Elon Musk and Disney. So I would just go ahead and say that I'm still with Elon Musk on this. Once again, you got Elon Musk as well as Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis has been in this Disney war culture fight a little bit longer. Obviously, there's things with Ron DeSantis we don't agree with and whatnot, but I do agree with his, at least DeSantis' stance on Disney. I think they recently had these audits come out where it turns out Disney's been operating as like its own country and pretty much able to do the types of things that it's not really supposed to be doing. And these audits that came out recently shed a lot of light to that. And there's even talk about, ramblings of staff cuts and whatnot. But yeah, I would just say at the end of the day, I think Elon is kind of learning a hard lesson that even people like Tim Pool was telling him, like, you want to eventually get in a place where you're not in a position where the advertisers can pretty much hold your company in your hand. And Elon, when he first came in, I mean, obviously he was very sloppy with Twitter. He was trying to try different things and limiting views on posts and Twitter Blue. I'm not sure how well that's been doing lately, but trying to up memberships and whatnot. At the end of the day, Disney is the last one that should be taking any sort of moral high horse or lecturing people on standards and integrity and our morality. At the end of the day, Disney has that right to do business with whoever they choose. But like the article was saying, you got Facebook, you got Instagram, and all types of hell they were doing, especially Facebook and whatnot. Doing censoring, such as censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story. And once again, of course, they pick on Twitter X because they don't like Elon and his politics. When you might as well take that gamut and go like, oh, if you're the morality police, yeah, you should stop advertising on Facebook, on Instagram, on all types of platforms, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm really, pushing for Elon on this. I think that once again, Disney with their culture war, it's been a long time coming. Obviously, where we like, we're fan of the classics of films. Obviously, some of this stuff, some of his older films have a history with the, little racist undertones and whatnot. But I think for a while, Disney has just been this sort of problematic, like you were saying earlier, as far as like, how do you define family friendly? It kind of goes back to, like you mentioned, 1984, double speak, changing of the language. Family friendly, it means two different things now. We all know before it didn't mean child drag shows. It didn't mean gender gender ideology, radical gender ideology that Disney pretty much embraces in its content. So I think that once again, it's funny that even earlier Disney was even admitted, I think even like a couple days or a few hours before Elon called out Iger, Disney admitted, like, yeah, we've taken a misstep in our political views, have cost us money. There was some sort of shareholder meeting or just some sort of report where they had admitted they did take a loss due to a misalignment with their political views. Now, does that mean they're going to go a full stop and just start reversing and just become like a far right? Of course not. Um, there was some acknowledgement there because they got shareholders that are literally, just wanting to just get really upset and just walk out. So long story short, um, this is just goes to show that once again, a lot of these advertisers, no matter where you stand on the center, right, left spectrum, it just starts with you. It starts with you whether you want to start a company, eventually want to consider doing advertising, may want to consider, are you going to hide your political views and never make any statements? Are you just an open far left sort of person? Yeah, they'll go ahead and take you. Or maybe you're more conservative, you want to conserve your views. So I just think, from a macro standpoint, it's good to look at Elon in this as just sort of like a case study on basically when it comes to advertisers, it comes to this environment, things like Disney. This is we want to be of the world. We want to be in the world, but not of the world, as I like to say. So this is something where it's a lesson, whether you're going into business or considering getting advertisers, or just a lesson, or just kind of like watching from afar. I still have a lot of issues with Disney. Disney has every right to cancel their advertisers, but Elon has every right to call them out, especially against the other shady dealings and affiliations that Disney has had over the years. All right, so moving on. Next topic we got right here for you, conspiracy brother. I'm gonna let you read this. I know we wanted to get to this topic, but go ahead and start with the headline.
Okay. Now let me say one thing
Yeah.
about the last topic.
All right.
This is why it's so important to understand and you don't have to go back. You can stay on the article. But why Ben Shapiro is off base. You cannot want to punish people for exercising their free speech and act like you are some kind of advocate for the outcast or the downtrodden or whatever. Those are completely incongruent ideas. The thing you love, if somebody wanted to come out and say something about Martin Luther King or something, I don't think they should lose their job over it.
Right.
Unless they're working in an official capacity of their employer. But if you're just saying something on, even as a college student, you know what I'm saying? Now, as a consumer, maybe I don't want to purchase your product, right? If I find out that was something you did as a consumer, maybe I don't want to purchase your product, and maybe I would tell my family or friends, hey, this guy, or this lady, she's off. But I'm not going to go out of my way because you think or say something crazy unless it has an impact on your performance. If you're a teacher and you're teaching children something that is not in the book, okay, now we got a problem. But if you feel some way politically about a country you don't even live in, you should be disbarred from being employed, right? You shouldn't be able to work for the rest of your life in an industry because you don't like the politics of a country you don't live in. That's the America we are in today. And like I said, you have so-called conservative free speech advocates who say, oh, this is great, this is great. The liberals is full of shit, but this is the so-called free speech advocate telling you this. So then, if that's the case, will Ben Shapiro go to college campuses and yell at the kids who say that they can be butterflies and fairies and frogs and dogs and shit? Then Ben Shapiro should justifiably face pushback because what he's doing conflicts, just like what these people doing protesting conflicts with his views of reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
based.
That's but we'll get to. So Hunter Biden is indicted on 9 tax charges, adding 2 gun charges in a special counsel investigation by the AP. This is from Lindsay Whitehurst. Lindsay Whitehurst, Washington, AP.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter Biden was indicted on 9 tax charges in California as a special counsel investigation into the business dealings of President Joe Biden's son intensifies against the backdrop of the 2024 election. The new charges filed Thursday, 3 felonies and 6 misdemeanors, are in addition to federal firearms charges in Delaware alleging Hunter Biden broke laws against drug users having guns in 2018. They come after the implosion of a plea deal over the summer that would have spared him jail time, putting the case on track to a possible trial as his father campaigns for re-election. Hunter Biden, quote, spent millions of dollars on an extravagant lifestyle rather than paying his tax bills, end quote. Special counsel David Weiss said in a statement. The charges are centered on at least $1.4 million in taxes Hunter Biden owed between 2016 and 2019, a period where he has acknowledged struggling with addiction. The back taxes have since been paid. Oh, fantastic! Yeah, that's sounds like an
That's
opening.
encouraging. Oh, I feel so much better now.
If convicted, Hunter Biden, 53, could receive a maximum of 17 years in prison. Oh, shit. The special counsel program.
That's it.
I would be surprised if he got 17 minutes.
Get that nigga
in a fiery response, defense attorney. Defense attorney Abby Lowell accused Weiss of, quote, bowing to Republican pressure, end quote, in the case. Quote, based on the facts and the law, if Hunter's last name was anything other than Biden, the charges in Delaware and now California would not have been brought, end quote, Lowell said in a statement. Now, that's funny because I think if his name would have been anything other than than Biden, he would have been under the jail decades ago because he's a crackhead. And his father instituted laws that made sure crackheads went to jail for a long time. So if anything, the fact that he's been able to skate this long is a testament to the power of his last name. See how the lawyers just turn shit, bro? Oh my God. The White House declined to comment on Thursday's indictment, referring questions to the Justice Department or Hunter Biden's personal representative. Have you seen that video of Karine Jean-Pierre when a guy asked her questions and she's sitting there, he asks her about this, and then she closed her notebook up so quick?
That don't surprise me. I mean, I've seen so many KJB or Karine Jean-Pierre, KJP. There's so many of those
she's
moments.
A goofball.
Oh my God.
She's a goofball. She's really a goofball. Like, she's really, and it's funny because for a job where you'd have to say, like, well, what's the qualification? She is supremely unqualified. You know what I mean?
A black female
Like,
lesbian. That's her qualification. She just played the identity politics card, and they literally.
Well, yeah, she did say she's a black
press
gay.
Secretary.
She is a black gay immigrant woman. So I guess you're right.
She set all three of those categories back. That's the sad part. She setting them all back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but anyway. Yeah.
She did. You're right. The charging documents filed in California, where he lives, detail spending on drugs, strippers, luxury hotels, and exotic cars. Quote, in short, everything but his taxes, end quote, prosecutor Leo Wise wrote. The indictment comes as congressional Republicans pursue an impeachment inquiry into President Biden, claiming he was engaged in an influence peddling scheme with his son. The House is expected to vote next week on formally authorizing the inquiry. No evidence has emerged so far to prove that Joe Biden, in his current or previous office, abused his role or now this is a lie. In his role or accepted bribes, though questions have arisen about the. Scroll down a little bit. About the ethics surrounding the Biden family's international business. The separate long-running criminal investigation into Hunter Biden had been expected to wind down with a plea deal where he would have gotten 2 years probation after pleading guilty to misdemeanor tax charges and avoided prosecution on the gun charge if he stayed out of trouble. The agreement was pilloried as a, quote, sweetheart deal, end quote, by Republicans, including former President Donald Trump. Trump is facing his own criminal case. Let's see how they just bring.
Right.
So what I was saying was a lie is that I think I was watching Jimmy Dore, and he said that he recently found out that the payments that Hunter received were going to Joe, like a bank account that Joe Biden either had ownership of or that they shared. So there's no way that Joe could justifiably say he had no knowledge of the business dealings because the payments are going to an account either that he had sole ownership of or that they had joint ownership of. So that's the lie. And she's not telling that part.
Yep.
But she's going to let you know Trump's also being facing criminal charges. So good old AP playing Democrat defense.
Yeah, we could definitely
the agreement. So let's see. Trump is facing his own criminal cases, including charges that he plotted to overturn the results of the 2020 election, which he lost to Biden, a Democrat. Lost should be in air quotes.
Okay.
Or scary quotes.
Right. Right.
Rep. James Comer, Republican Kentucky, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, gave credit for the new charges Thursday to two IRS investigators who testified before Congress that the Justice Department had mishandled and, quote, slow-walked, end quote, the investigation into the president's son. Justice officials have denied those allegations. The two IRS employees, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, said the indictment was, quote, a complete vindication of our thorough investigation, end quote. The new charges against Hunter Biden include filing a false return and tax evasion felonies, as well as misdemeanor failure to file and failure to pay. The defense signaled that it plans to fight the new charges, likely at least in part relying on immunity provisions from the original plea deal. Defense attorneys have argued those remain in force since that part of the agreement was signed by a prosecutor before the deal was scrapped. Prosecutors have disagreed, pointing out the documents weren't signed by a judge and are invalid. Lowell said he's also planning to push for dismissal of the gun charge next week, calling them, quote, unprecedented and unconstitutional, end quote. So it's interesting that they want to say that because a prosecutor signed it and even though a judge didn't sign it, that's a valid plea deal. These motherfuckers is, I mean, I guess if you're paying a lawyer, you want him to just try to do anything he can, right? That's, I mean, you know, when you're paying a lawyer, you want him to just do any inane bullshit he can, even if it's on the face of it seems useless and impossible to work because you want to try to win. So, but man, this is silly ass shit, bro. If Trump was doing this shit, man, you never hear the end of it.
Yep. So you want to just sort of chop it up as far as Hunter Biden, or you want to read the rest of it, or it's up to you?
Oh yeah, I'll keep reading. I know it's more. Okay, I'll keep going. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. The 3 federal gun charges filed in Delaware allege Hunter Biden lied about. Well, you want me to read about the background of the gun charge?
Sure.
Up there?
Let's break it down for people.
The gun case. Hunter Biden is charged with violating measures against drug users having guns when he bought and kept a revolver for about 11 days in 2018. He has pleaded not guilty. House Republicans are demanding he appear for a closed-door deposition. He has refused the request. His attorney has called the probe a fishing expedition.
Oh, and let's not forget too, AP so quick to hop on Democrat defense on how he took that revolver and then he threw it into a dumpster across the street from a high school. And then when they came back days later to get the gun was missing.
Oh yeah.
So, of course they didn't. Let's not forget that little piece to that.
His legal team has taken a more forceful approach to the case in recent months. The case has touched on some less well-understood aspects of the criminal justice system. Republicans are also pursuing an impeachment inquiry seeking to tie the president to his son's business dealings. So even with that, the reason they found out about the gun that he purchased anyway is because he posted a picture like waving it.
Mm. And
then he had other pictures like where because I believe he got kicked out of either the Air Force Reserves or the Navy Reserves.
Shocking.
Because he get tested positive for cocaine in his system.
Shocking.
He crashed a rental car either in Vegas or on the way to Vegas from California, and there was a crack pipe in the rental car.
Mm.
And then, you have all that stuff on the laptop, smoking crack and stuff and being around crack. So, the reason we know he had a gun as a drug user is because of him. So, how do you plead not guilty to it? It's your own evidence.
Mm.
But here you go. The 3 federal gun charges filed in Delaware allege Hunter Biden had lied about his drug use to buy a gun that he kept for 11 days in 2018. Federal law bans gun possession by, quote, habitual drug users, end quote. Though the measure is seldom seen as a standalone charge, it has been called into question by a federal appeals court. The reason it's seldom seen as a standalone charge, I'm sure I don't know, is because it's hard to actually prove this in a standalone case. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
And usually, I'm sure you have bigger charges that a person is looking at besides just this. But how do you know a person is a habitual drug user and they own a gun if they're using illegal drugs?
Right.
There's no way to know that unless, like this idiot, you record every time you smoke crack, and so it's nothing to figure out. Hunter Biden's long-standing struggle with substance abuse. Oh my God! Look how they make him a victim.
Right.
Worse than his brother, Beau Biden. His brother, who he ended up marrying his wife or dating his widow, let me say. According to court documents and his memoir, quote, Beautiful Things, end quote, which ends with him getting clean in 2019. Oh, yeah, and he talks about it in his book that he was on drugs.
Yep.
Everybody want to write a book. Stop writing fucking books. You're telling on yourself. It's just like when they be talking about all the rappers who talk about all the shit they do in their rap songs. This is the exact same shit.
Or the culture vultures, where they try and all the old school gangsters want to go on Vlad TV.
Yeah,
glorify their glory days, and they wonder why they get a subpoena, where they get some charges coming up.
Right. His gross income, nevertheless, totaled some $7 million between 2016 and 2020. Prosecutors said, pointing to his roles on the board of the Ukrainian energy company Burisma and a Chinese private equity fund, as well as his position at a law firm. All 3 things he was unqualified for. Now, he does have a law degree from Yale. And so this is my point. You think he's smart enough to get into Yale and graduate. And that's all good, but you surprised that the presidents of these places are stupid? George Bush got a degree from Yale. He got an MBA from Harvard. George Bush. Sometimes I go and watch old like bloopers of George Bush talking because it amazes me that a man so stupid became president. And you want to be surprised that the presidents of these universities aren't stupid too?
Yeah. Newsflash.
Water is wet. Hunter did eventually file his taxes in 2020 while facing a child support case in Arkansas. And the back taxes were paid by, quote, a third party, end quote. Prosecutors have said in court, I wonder if it was the Obamas, because I know Bo had racked up a lot of medical bills.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Biden, when he was dying of cancer from the burn pits when he was in the military, he's the one that they actually wanted to get into politics. He was the one that was actually the responsible one, and then he died, of cancer. And so Hunter's the only one left, and he's the fuck up.
Bo was the good son, and Hunter's the fuck
up. But so the Obamas paid off Joe Biden's medical debt for his son. It was like a couple $1 million. He didn't have it. He don't do shit. All this money they have now, it's just like the Clintons. When they left the White House, they didn't have no fucking money. And then all of a sudden, the next couple of years, your wealth is $100-something million. What did you do after being president that made you all this money that was legal? See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, I wonder who that third party was. I want to know. Because that they would have had to claim on their taxes that they paid $1 million taxes for somebody else. You know what I'm saying? You can't give a gift but over like $10,000 without having to pay taxes on it. So I wonder who paid it. We should probably try to look into it. We'll see. We have to find a FOIA request. Take Uncomfy Truths to the next level. Be real citizen journalists and do this investigative journalism.
Yeah. We might have to start a Patreon for that. But anything's possible, man. Bro, I just want to, man. All I gotta say is, once again, I told you so with Hunter Biden. Obviously, people have been calling out the alarm on this, for years now. A lot of stuff Trump said was vindicated during that debate, where Biden I had 50 intelligence agents that swore that the laptop is complete Russian disinformation. Well, here we are, motherfuckers. What I want to know is, because we can kind of rag about Hunter Biden, but what I want to know is, do you think, conspiracy brother, do you think it'll get to a point? Because once again, he has apparently he's facing 17 years at least with these charges. I think that it's either going to get to a point where, because obviously I feel like the Democrats are going back to turning against him. Because if we want to be hearing about these charges and whatnot, I think that part of that means that they're still looking to get Biden out of there. So I think that either they're going to say, hey, Joe, we're going to have to step down, or we're going to throw the book at your son. Or they may even decide to kill him, because maybe there's other forces within the department that's going to keep going at him, and it's going to eventually get back to Biden and the Democrats. So I think either the deep state is either going to try and get rid of Hunter, they're going to kill him, or they're going to be like, Biden, you need to step down, or we're going to throw the book at your son, or might even wipe out your son. What's your thoughts on that? One of those two possibilities. Pretty much where we are now.
Those are potentially very possible. Because Joe is so old and feeble, they could probably get rid of him and just say, "Oh yeah, he died of old age or something,
or a heart attack." Yeah.
And I don't know. Have you ever heard of the comedian Josh Johnson?
No, I haven't.
He used to write for The Daily Show. He's black. Okay. He might be like 20s, early 30s. He's pretty funny. He's from Louisiana, but he's pretty funny. I watch a lot of his stuff on YouTube. He does a lot of clips. Mm-hmm. And he has a joke about Joe Biden. He's like, man, how terrible are we? because we all forced Joe Biden to run. He didn't even want to run for president. I didn't. I never wanted him to run. I thought he was a piece of shit. But he was like, Joe Biden didn't want to be president. We all begged him to be president. And then as soon as he became president, we all said he was too old, and we just talked shit about him the whole time. It's a really funny joke, like the whole setup and everything. But I think this is what they'll get rid of Kamala too, because they'll link her to Joe. So they'll get rid of two birds with one stone, because there's no way she could be a sufficient president. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was really just supposed to be window dressing.
Yep.
And
she was like the little carrot. Get all the black folks. Oh, sure about Joe. Oh, black woman. Not even real black. We'll get the little carrot. Look, I could literally see, like, there's like the carrot, and then there's like the box, the half prop box, and the stick holding up the box, and then the little string connected to fucking Joe Biden and Democrats hiding around the corner, next to a tree. And then as soon as the black folks are like, oh yeah, okay, and then they under the box and they throw pull the string, and now they under the box and shit. You got Biden off.
Right. Like that Dave Chappelle. Gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, basically.
So yeah, that's definitely it. And so I think they're gonna do something to get him out of office. Either they're gonna say, hey man, you gotta step down, because he's not the one in charge. I mean, he's not in charge, bro.
I think once again, I think they're gonna try and I don't know, man. We already under a year to the next election. I'm really surprised if they didn't force him out. It should have been by now, like in the fall. So I feel like at this point they've already had the conversation, like, hey, you're getting old. Hey, your son. So I feel like they're gonna really put their foot on the gas, and they're either gonna throw more pressure, as we're seeing on Hunter now. They're gonna throw more of the book at him. Or as we get into early 2024, they're finally going to be like, all right, it's going to be your son's life or your life. Because I feel like they would have done that where he gracefully stepped down and agreed. That should have been like before the year mark. So I feel like they're at the point of no return where something going to happen to Hunter, something going to happen to Joe. Once again, I despise them both. I don't condone murder or anybody. I feel like, once again, like, Biden is only a puppet of a bigger systemic system with the Democrats and the deep state and the world order, So I don't think just killing Hunter because I hate Hunter, or killing Joe because I hate Joe. I'm not subscribed to that, but I feel like that's what the Democrats. Hunter, something gonna happen to Hunter or Joe. That's all I'm gonna say. We're getting close, All right. Anything else, Conspiracy Brother, you want to add before we move on? We got a lot of topics.
No, I mean, I agree. I think something's gonna happen to him where he's gonna step down. Yeah. They're gonna try to put Gavin Newsom. I think that's one of the reasons why Mark Cuban is selling all his shit. He might try to run. So I think we'll see. We'll see some things going soon, eventually, because like you said, we don't have much time before you got really 11 months.
Yeah, it was getting there. It's getting there. All right. So next topic we got. All right, 7 takeaway. Actually, you know what? Let's get to Eric Adams. Actually, we'll do the little Gavin, Ron. Where's that one at? Here it is. All right. We gotta get the Mayor Eric Adams. This is another one. I'll read this one, and you can feel free to comment or make notes as we go. Woman claims New York City Mayor Eric Adams sexually assaulted her in 1993. The woman filed a summons under New York's Adult Survivors Act. This comes from Aaron Cattersky from ABC News. And once again, as you guys know, we've had, recently these scandals involving the Eric Adams. And give you guys some context, it was only several weeks ago that he changed his stance on illegal immigration. Before that, he was like, hey, we're the sanctuary city. Come up, come one, come all. We'll let everybody in. And as we called it months ago, even last year, on how it's going to overwhelm your system and the resources and piss the citizens off. Now we have a situation in New York where they can't house everybody. Citizens are pissed off with all their resources. And Eric Adams started changing his tune about quit sending them here, calling out Biden. And guess what? Here we are. A woman accused New York Mayor Eric Adams of sexually assaulting her in 1993, according to new court filing. The woman filed a summons under New York's Adult Survivors Act that names Adams, the NYPD, and two unknown entities as defendants. The filing said the two were working for the city at the time. Adams was a police captain. Plaintiff was sexually assaulted by defendant Eric Adams in New York in 1993, while they both worked for the city of New York. The summons said the claims brought here alleged intentional negligent acts of omissions for physical, psychological, and other injuries suffered as a result of conduct that would constitute sexual offenses. The summons is a precursor to a complaint that will lay out details of the alleged assault. The mayor does not know who this person is. They never ever met. He doesn't recall it, but he would never do anything to physically harm another person or vigorously denies such a claim. City Hall spokesperson said. Adams himself addressed the allegations, saying it was absolutely not true. This is something that has never happened, he said. I don't even recall meeting the person. I'm not going to remain steadfast in running the city. I would not harm anyone in any manner such as that. A source told ABC News the NYPD has a record of the woman working for the police department. The Adult Survivors Act took effect in 2022 and expires at midnight. It eliminated the statute of limitations for sexual abuse accusers to file suit. Holy shit. I didn't even know that, man. We have no more statute of limitations. Oh my God. The woman is seeking the at least $5 million according to the summons. Thank you, ABC News, for short to the point articles. But Conspiracy Brother, I gave a little bit of my thoughts. I got a little bit more as far as Me Too and how we can get rid of a lot of these coming out the woodwork accusers. I got some solutions. But Conspiracy Brother, what are your thoughts on this scandal?
Well, first off, I believe women, and Eric Adams should already have resigned. But seriously, so the Adult Survivors Act, it was put in place so that lady who accused Trump of rape, I forget her name.
E.G. Carroll,
Yeah.
Or Jean Carroll,
yeah,
like
yeah. She could sue him civilly because it's far too long to have a criminal investigation.
Yeah, no rape kit about to get in that.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's why they did it. And so, like I talked about earlier, the dragnet catches whatever's in his path. You know what I mean?
Got his ass. Got his nigga wake up call. Let's just call it how it is. Eric Adams, I appreciate you, brother. What you tried to do out there, you went far left with your policies, but you getting your nigga wake up call right now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, But I mean, keeping any kind of logical consistency, he should be resigning because didn't Andrew Cuomo resign for the same shit?
Yeah, believe all women. No.
The chick said he hugged her. Maybe he hugged her, and
I felt that was violence.
So
I felt unsafe. That hug, it wasn't a safe hug.
So hey, I mean,
come on, man, Conspiracy, bro. I know you got a little more than that. Come on, bring it out. Let me pull it out of you.
Well, I'm just, it's you can't be so stupid. Like on the face of it, this is ridiculous, and it seems politically motivated because it seems like it happened just after he started saying, "Hey, the federal government is not giving us any assistance with all these migrants. We don't have enough space. We don't have enough money. Whatever."
As soon as he pivoted, quit, and started speaking out against,
they just started. They started hammering him like, "Oh, that's how you feel? All right, we'll make sure you never, So I mean, yeah, man, like it's terrible. But again, it's not at all unforeseen to anybody who has eyes and a working brain. Mm-hmm. And like, this is what you get, bro. This is what you get. You know, this is what you get when you when you build your whole life, your career, whatever, on trying to satisfy the whims of the political machine. That's what it basically amounts to. When you set yourself up to live by the whims of something like that, the capriciousness of the political winds or the political environment, this is what happened. It'll turn on you. You know what I'm saying? In a sane world, this woman would be laughed off of the face of the earth. Yep. We don't live in a sane world anymore. So, you know, hey.
I think, and once again, I will repeat this. You've heard me say this once, twice in the group chat. I'll say it again. Any accuser that where it finds out, the court finds that the accuser was lying about the plaintiff, that accuser should then serve the exact same sentence that the plaintiff was set to serve if he was convicted, he or she was convicted, man or woman, in either case. And that'll get rid of 90% of this bullshit. Me Too, once again, Harvey Weinstein, maybe Kevin Spacey, even though Kevin Spacey, there's some doubt there. There were people that legitimately were monsters that did things against women. They should be held accountable. But then you have 80-90% of the bullshit people coming out the woodwork. That's how you got this new New York's Adult Survivors Act law, thanks to Trump. This is just the president. They need to come after Trump for that. And what this does is that you are spitting in the face and burying the real victims that need to get the real justice, the real women that have been raped and assaulted. And you're just doing this to show that, no, we need this to come after our political enemies. So you really don't care about women. You really don't want to believe all women. You just want the women that could be the pawn to get the political outcome you want. So you're really shitting on all women. Ain't believe all women. You are shitting on all women. This is what pisses me off. Once again, there's a lot of things with Eric Adams, way he's ran New York City into the ground. But let's be real. We'll never know. This woman could be telling the truth. Maybe not. But odds are, she, just like E.G. Carroll, they've dug into these politicians' past. They see connections. They reach out and they instigate and put them in the position to come out and say these things, most likely. So let's just call a spade a spade. Once again, I think Eric Adams, this is the nigga wake-up call he needs, because once again, he started pushing back against the Dem agenda. And I hate to see the brother go through this. I can't stand his politics. But guess what? I'm pretty sure this case is 100% BS. It's political. We've seen this time and time, especially toward black men. But yeah, that's all I got to say on that. Anything else, conspiracy brother? I'm about to.
Well, yeah. I mean, you already knew they had a moral inconsistency with believe all women when they elected Joe Biden. I mean, Tara Reid credibly accused him of sexual assault. Even had evidence that she talked to her mother about it, that she was moved from working for Joe Biden. You know, like there's all this different information, like contemporary, that she talked to people about it to give her credibility, and the whole apparatus turned on her. So much so that Alyssa Milano, who had believe all women and Me Too and Time's Up in her Twitter bio, deleted the shit from her Twitter bio.
Shocking.
Because these people don't stand on anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm not surprised. That's why, you know, like you said, you know, as a black man, it seems weird that he put so much confidence in the system. Like you think you transcended it or something.
Yeah. You think like you arrived.
Like you could never have your turn if they needed to. Like you wouldn't have to pay one day if they needed you to. That's so weird to me.
Yeah, that's the HNIC syndrome, head nigga in charge syndrome. You really thought he was hot shit, you know. But then white folks got to bring you back down a few pegs. So here we are.
Yeah, to bring you back down to reality, man.
Yeah, like, slow down there, cowboy.
Right.
Back in line, boy. All right.
Put you back
Okay,
in the
moving
real
right
world.
along. Moving right along. Next, we have Pfizer files lawsuit against Poland for declining COVID-19 vaccine. So, real quick, conspiracy brother, go ahead and once again, you can read part of the article. We can kind of break it down as we go through it. You don't have to read the whole thing if you don't want to, or we could talk as we go. But whenever you're ready.
So this is by Anthony Scott in the
Mhm.
Gateway Pundit. Pfizer has filed a lawsuit against the Polish government for missing payments for over 60 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. The pharmaceutical giant filed the lawsuit after Poland allegedly could not fulfill its contract for the COVID-19 vaccines. Poland was locked into buying excess vaccines after the European Commission had Poland sign a controversial contract in 2021. In total, Pfizer is seeking $1.5 billion in compensation for 60 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. Poland declined. In 2022, the Polish health minister at the time, Adam, ooh, that's a name for you, Adam, and you know, Polish is so crazy. None of those letters are pronounced like they looked. So if I say Niedziki or Niedzilki, I promise you, none of that is pronounced like that.
Half
Maybe
them
the
letters
ski
are
part at
silent.
the end.
Half them letters are
Maybe the
silent.
C. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So
I just
I'm
call
just
him
saying
Adam
Adam.
in. Adam in.
Right. Declared the country had stopped taking vaccine deliveries from Pfizer. He said Poland initiated a force majeure clause in the contract, claiming Poland was not financially capable of honoring the contract due to an increase of refugees from the Ukraine war. Larry Elder says Pfizer sues Poland because it doesn't want to buy more COVID-19 vaccines. The lawsuit, which comes as U.S. pharmaceutical giant, so per Politico, U.S. pharmaceutical giant Pfizer is taking the Polish government to court over missing payments for $60 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine it developed with BioNTech or BioNTech. The lawsuit, which comes as Poland go up just a little bit, as Poland prepares for a change in government following its October election, marks the culmination of a 19-month struggle between Warsaw and Pfizer over a glut of vaccine doses. The roots of the clash can be traced back further to the enormous 1.1 billion dose contract the European Commission signed with Pfizer in 2021, which has become controversial for the reported exchange of a text message between Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. I've heard Ursula von der Crazy. That's what Alex Christoforou calls her, or Ursula von der Leyen again. That's what Mike from Earl Grey calls her. Mike, I think his name is Mike Jones.
It's in her name, Der Lion. Der Lion.
Yeah.
Der Lion.
And you know what's funny? One of her ancestors was a slave owner from South Carolina.
That doesn't shock me at all.
It's a weird ass. Like
They got the starter money for the shit running now.
Yeah, she comes from German nobility, so it's really interesting though. Like her great grandmother or some shit was like, you know, one of those what do they call them, landed gentry or whatever from the South, those slave owning aristocrats or whatever. So she'd have to pay reparations. How about that? Let's see. And Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla, he's a veterinarian. He's not even a people doctor. Did you know that the CEO of Pfizer is a veterinarian? He's not a people doctor. So he's a doctor. He's not a people doctor. So a lot of this, I mean, I don't think those are analogous like medical professions. Quote, Pfizer and BioNTech are seeking to hold Poland to its commitments for COVID-19 vaccine orders placed by the Polish government as part of the contract to supply the European Union signed in May 2021, end quote, a spokesperson for Pfizer told Politico. Adding that, BioNTech is also joining the proceedings. As Pfizer is suing Poland for compensation, those injured by mRNA in vaccines are now fighting back. read, quote, litigation floodgates are now open for mRNA vaccine injured comprehensive list of 90 attorneys
Oh yeah, that's
around the
another
world.
article I got coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
I mean, this is the same company where that lady, her name was Janine something, British lady, said that they had to move at the speed of science. So they didn't even get to check if the vaccines were prevented against transmission. So that's the company that your government has recommended you all be vaccinated from.
it just go. We don't spend much time on this. We got another Pfizer one coming up, or vaccine one coming up. But yeah, it just goes to show like Pfizer has some nerve. Like the floodgates are opening up. You know, like you said, we got this article coming up. 90s attorneys around the world, they're trying to sue vaccine makers. There's actually about 100 SAG members, part of the Actors Guild, that are suing the Screen Actors Guild of America for losing work, for being discriminated against. The wave is coming. So I think Pfizer is trying to just play a little mental gymnastics to try and like maybe skirt around the issue and trying to sue countries, or oh, you're back, you owe back payments, or oh, you didn't fulfill this, agreement, which is contractually fair. But it just goes to show just a level of disgust and a level of just disdain I have, and and just really just the audacity of these people, of Pfizer, to have the nerve to sue anybody. Uh, so that's all I got, conspiracy brother. What about you? I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I mean, what court do you go to take a country to court? You go to the European High Court? I mean, how did what
I
if
think they
you
were
don't?
saying here European Commission, or
Well, commission. The commission is like a body of the European Union.
all right.
Maybe I don't know. I mean,
That's a
our
good
governments have
question.
sold us out. Our governments have sold us all out long ago, and so the fact that we haven't all decided to have a revolution is really our fault. Right. So I'm not surprised by any bullshit anymore.
Can't be. All right. Next article: 7 takeaways from Ron DeSantis and the Gavin Newsom debate. Obviously, this was like the big sort of the red versus blue state debate. Highly touted last week on Fox News. I think it was on Hannity's show. Sean Hannity was the moderator on Fox News. So a lot of people have a lot of different feelings about it. This comes from ABC News. The two governors clash on major issues with 2024 in the background. This is by Will McDuffie, Hannah Demise. There's too many of these motherfuckers. Why do you need 4 people on these articles? How much
Who wrote?
Four of these.
Oh yeah, because they don't have a brain between them. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
ABC News.
All right. I did personally sit through the whole thing. I don't know why I did. I tried to do a little reaction to it. And I'll probably post that on my Conservative Brother Daily channel. The video file is so big, it's been failing. Video upload's been failing. I got to do it again. But all right, after more than 90 minutes of argument, insult, crosstalk, and a few props, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and California Governor Gavin Newsom ended their debate on Fox News on Thursday night on a lighter note, trading compliments. But much of what came before underlined their major differences in different debate styles on some of the biggest issues of the day, including abortion access, crime, public safety, the economy, immigration, and more. Sean Hannity moderated, often pleading with the two governors to spend less time talking over one another and more time answering his questions. Here are 7 takeaways from the face-off build as the great red versus blue state debate, although it was played out as the two participants is running from the White House and the other one discussed as a future presidential contender. Newsom embraces role as Biden's biggest defender. Throughout the evening, Newsom served essentially as a stand-in surrogate for the White House and his policies, freely heaping praise on Joe Biden economic agenda and defending him on border security. DeSantis hurled sharply worded attacks on how the administration has handled the cost of living and other problems. DeSantis accused Newsom as running a shadow campaign for president in 2024, the premise the California governor has vigorously rejected and gone to great lengths to dispute. Asked by Hannity if he would say unequivocally he would not run in 2024 under any circumstances, Newsom quickly shot back correct. I don't know how many times I have to say it, just making this stuff up as a shadow campaign. I appreciate the respect the president is doing and the vice president is the Biden-Harris campaign and the team. But you simping for 2028, though. You know, good and well, Harris or Biden's out the picture. You're going to get that spot, Newsom. Anyway, to that end, Newsom has also interjected during one of DeSantis' answers to correct DeSantis on pronouncing Kamala Harris' first name, saying DeSantis should show more respect. Speaking to reporters after the debate, Newsom emphasized that supporting the Biden campaign was a key part of his strategy going into Thursday night. I focused on defending and promoting, supporting, telling the truth about the Biden record. I was pleased to have that opportunity, he said, adding he felt the 90-minute back and forth was part of a anti-Biden doom loop. Reason number three, 2024 looms in the background. Fox News previewed the event as a debate between governors of two states with vastly different ideologies, but the presidential race remained central to the discussion. Newsom, in multiple points, pointed out DeSantis' gapping polling deficit in the Republican Party, where he trails frontrunner Donald Trump, even in his own state, despite entering the race with much fanfare and widespread goodwill among conservatives. How's that going for you, Ron? Newsom asked after accusing the Florida governor of trying to out-Trump Trump. DeSantis, for his part, charged that Newsom was trying to quietly run his own race into the Democratic nomination next year. He is in decline, yes, DeSantis said of Biden. It's a danger to the country. He has no business running for president. You know, Gavin Newsom agrees with that. He won't say that. That's why he's running a shadow campaign. Newsom accused DeSantis of just making stuff up. And one of the most notable jabs of the night, Newsom invoked DeSantis' struggling campaign. One thing that we have in common, neither of us will be the nominee of our party, he said. Crosstalk and claims of lying. The debate was replete with moments of two talking over one another for minutes on end while claiming that the other is lying. He's been telling a lot of whoppers tonight, DeSantis said an hour into it. On COVID-19, the governors battled for space to accuse each other of implementing harmful policies during the height of the pandemic. You had quarantines, you had checkpoints, Newsom said. False, DeSantis fired back. The exchange saw all three men speaking at once. DeSantis repeatedly asked Newsom why California was closed. Newsom recounted instances where DeSantis wore a mask and Hannity asked the governor to let it breathe. The host urged them during the debate not to force him to be a hall monitor, a plea that mostly went unheeded. Elsewhere, Hannity noted how lively the exchanges were, though he also cracked that he wasn't just a potted plant to be ignored. To cap it all, the night ended awkwardly, with everyone appearing to agree to extend the debate for 20 more minutes until the end of the second hour. Fox News went to commercials on that tease, but when the programming returned, Hannity informed viewers that governors actually had other commitments and the debate was over. I remember that. That was really awkward. Like, you bait and switch motherfuckers. This is pornography. Perhaps one of the most spirited conversations of the night came amid the discussion of the Florida Parental Rights and Education Act, frequently referred to by critics as the Don't Say Gay law, though its supporters say it's about shielding children from inappropriate topics. DeSantis has campaigned on and avidly supported the legislation, which widely restricts discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in K-12 schools when not deemed appropriate. Some of it's, at one point of the debate, and I remember this, during his defense of the law, DeSantis, in apparent violation of the debate's rules against props, pulled out a photo of a graphic novel, genderqueer memoir, which depicted a scene of oral sex. Some of it is blacked out. You will not be able to put this on air, adding that this was not consistent with Florida's standards. This is pornography. It's cartoons. This should not be in schools. Another prop he brought out later was to illustrate a criticism of San Francisco. He said the map showed all the places where feces was seen on the streets. DeSantis also said that the school should educate kids, not indoctrinate them. Newsom shot back and that DeSantis was using the law to wage a culture war as DeSantis disputed how many books have been banned in this state. Newsom said 1,400 books have been banned just last year under Ron DeSantis' leadership. I love that he keeps pulling this out. I've seen this. He's been doing this all over his campaign. He went on to accuse the Florida governor of using education as a sword for your cultural purge. Newsom then invoked some of the California's own history, referencing the 1978 state Briggs Initiative, a ballot that proposed banning gay and lesbian people from teaching, what Newsom called the original Don't Say Gay bill. The proposition failed in part because of opposition from then Governor Ronald Reagan. Addressing DeSantis, Newsom said, "I don't like the way you demean the LGBT community. I don't like the way you demean and humiliate people you disagree with, Ron. I really find this fundamentally offensive." Comparing public safety. When the debate turned to, when debate turned to crime in the U.S., Hannity pulled statistics from the FBI that showed the combined national state rate of homicide, rape, and robbery, aggravated assault in 2022. When the combined rate was shown for DeSantis and Newsom's respective states, Florida was lower than the national average, while California was above it. Asked about California's crime rate, Newsom highlighted that the state had its lowest crime rate in 50 years. Newsom also noted the murder rate, which was not mentioned in the provided statistics, stating that Florida has a higher murder rate than California. He then invoked the Parkland, Florida school shooting where 17 kids were killed, arguing DeSantis later made it easier for some people to purchase weapons, referencing legislation Florida governor signed earlier this year that allows Floridians to be able to carry concealed weapons without a permit. Newsom also quoted Fred Gutenberg, whose daughter Jamie died in the shooting, who called DeSantis weak and pathetic for signing the recent gun legislation. DeSantis responded to Newsom, called him a slick politician, and redirected attention back to California's high crime rate. People are leaving California in droves, largely because of the public safety has collapsed. And then the line to migrants. As the two spared over immigration and border management, Newsom accused DeSantis of luring migrants under false pretenses by offering jobs and housing, an accusation stemming from DeSantis' effort to organize flights for migrants of Martha's Vineyard. His office organized similar flights to Sacramento, California over the summer. That kind of gamesmanship, using beings as pawns, I think is disqualifying, which I got to call bullshit on right away, conspiracy brother, because Democrats have been shipping migrants the last couple of years all over the country, and they play this game where they do it, and then when we use it against them, it's all of a sudden, oh, you're playing a game. So I just call that bullshit out. DeSantis shot back repeatedly that Newsom is spouting false information, arguing that Martha's Vineyard had claimed to be a sanctuary jurisdiction, which is true. As soon as it's on their borders, we got a lot of these elites who want open borders, who lecture everybody else about it. Then the minute they have to deal with any sort of the consequences, oh man, all hell breaks loose. Newsom claimed that he was only making such moves as for media attention. You're trolling folks and trying to find migrants to play political games. See how they spin it? They project what they're doing. They accuse their opponents of doing. All right. And then finally, all right, almost done. Last seven. This is last of the 7 takeaways from the Newsom DeSantis debate. Hannity pressed Newsom on abortion, asking the California governor if he supports any restrictions on it, particularly in the third trimester of pregnancy after the fetus is viable. Newsom avoided answering the question while noting that such procedures are very rare and usually in cases of fetal abnormalities. Instead, he focused on DeSantis signing a 6-week abortion ban, which he called extreme. Hannity continued to press Newsom to answer the original question and eventually turned to DeSantis, asking the Florida governor what his reasoning was for signing a 6-week abortion ban instead of maintaining the 15-week previous place in Florida. DeSantis said it was because he believes in a culture of life. I think we're better off when everybody counts and when everybody has the opportunity to do well. Newsom cut in and asked DeSantis if he would support a national abortion ban as president. DeSantis did not answer. Shows the ABC News bias there. So I know that was a lot. Obviously a lot of people are kind of done with this already. But conspiracy brother, like to get your maybe initial thoughts on this.
Now, see, I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
And I forgot all about it, actually. And then I had intended to go back and try to watch it, but I hadn't yet. And so, there's that. But it's just like, man, those two. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think they're both doing a lot of political gamesmanship.
Right.
I think I talked about it last week. That Channel 5 News, where the guy went to San Francisco and he actually talked to people who broke the law and did crimes and stuff. And it's interesting how the Democrats still try to portray themselves as the adults in the room or the more mature, because it's a different type of elitism, right?
Right.
Like in the past, like in the early 2000s and stuff, and that's really when I had more of my political coming of age.
Right.
You saw like Bush and Cheney and all those people, like neoconservatives, who John McCain and Mitt Romney, like they had this really elitist idea of America, of who America is, who America was, what it could be, what it would be, and Hillary Clinton embodies a lot of that neocon, neoliberal mentality. And what you see the Democrats doing, on the converse of that is a different type of out of touch elite, where it's like, well, I have money. Everybody can do, all my friends, everybody that I affiliate with can do and act and operate. So why can't everybody else? Why can't you just get your shit together? You know what I mean? It's just an out of touch. We can help everybody. And it's not from the perspective of we can help everybody because we have the money and the infrastructure. Here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. It's like, bring all the migrants up here. It doesn't matter. Everybody can work. It's fine. Just get a job. Like a completely out of touch mentality.
Yeah.
And so that's where Gavin Newsom is coming from. And so, he talks about the whole thing with the school shooting at Stone Douglas or whatever. Well, he's not bringing up the fact that that police officer who was there ran off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think he ended up getting fired, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you can shed more light on it to help me fill in the blanks where I might be off base. But like the security guard or whatever who was there at the school when the shooting happened, ran off and didn't do his job, basically. And so he got disciplined in some capacity. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, get rid of guns and then you'll get rid of gun violence. Because just like we talked about earlier with the whole drug users aren't allowed to own guns. Like, how do you know somebody's a drug user? What are you going around taking a poll? You giving people drug tests before they purchase guns?
Right.
And so there's no way to verify this stuff. There's no way to know. Unless you are violating somebody's right to privacy. But the law doesn't work. What it does is it stops law-abiding citizens, right? If somebody is a legal, let's say, weed user, you still can't own a gun legally. So then maybe you don't buy one. But the people who are doing the hardcore stuff, meth and crack and stuff, they don't care. That's not a restriction that they're concerned with. And they also don't make that restriction for cigarettes, which is nicotine, or alcohol, which are two drugs. Caffeine is a drug. You know what I'm saying? So DeSantis blew his shot at being on the Trump ticket because he fell for all the Democrat donors telling him that if he attacked Trump, they'd make sure that he became the nominee. So he fell for that.
Yeah.
And it appears to be blowing up in his face. And Gavin Newsom, he's still waiting to see if they're going to get rid of Joe Biden or not. Ultimately, that's what they got him doing. He's trying to see if Joe Biden is still going to be their guy or not, because he's just waiting in the wings. And it isn't reasonable. I was watching Clownfish today, Clownfish TV. And they were talking about how California passed a law now where all the toys at the toy store has to be gender neutral. So like you can't say this is a boy or girl's toys, which I don't think toy stores do anyway. Like I don't think that the toy stores have any specific gendered labeling. When you go buy a Barbie, it doesn't say for girls, or when you buy Hot Wheels, it doesn't say for boys. But like that's a law that they just passed in California, where you have to have gender neutral toys. And even though I don't really think toys are gendered, by the product, I think that is an issue that across the country is a loser. I think if you're trying to have any aspirations of national office, that's not going to work. Unless it is purely a state-based national office, like running for Senate or for U.S. House of Representatives. But you're not going to be a president in America, and you have that on your record where you want to have gender-neutral toys. While I think that's unimportant, that's not going to work. And then you look at the whole "Don't Say Gay" thing. Well, they call it the "Don't Say Gay" bill, and he says, it's a non-issue or whatever. And they always say that. But then if you say, well, if it's a non-issue, then just pass this law restricting, outlining by law what you can and can't do if this is a non-issue. And they always push back on it, which seems to belie what the facts are. Because if this is a non-issue, like the whole thing where I think it was in Indiana, they were trying to restrict gender, they call them gender confirmation surgeries for minors. And they were trying to say, well, that doesn't even happen in Indiana or in Boston, or I think it might have been Massachusetts, not Boston, but Massachusetts. It doesn't even happen here. And then it's like, so if it doesn't happen, then sign the law. If it doesn't happen, what's the problem with codifying this so that it cannot legally happen later? You know what I mean? So overall, I think it's a shit show because DeSantis has no chance of a political future now that he's kind of turned on Trump. And I think Trump still has a firm grasp on the party, at least the party base. And it looks like the party elites have chosen Nikki Haley and not him to be their nominee. So he's pretty much, this is probably about the height of his career right here.
Yeah. But all right. And how you doing on time, Conspiracy Brother? I know we're probably not gonna get to all these articles, or we could maybe do a quick lightning round. But how you doing on time? As far as we about 2.5. Well, we got started around 7:30 technically, 7:30 your time. So, 6:30 your time. So we about maybe just 2 hours in. So how you doing on time?
I'm good if you're good.
I'm good. We could probably maybe give another half hour, 45 minutes or so. And I'll go into this next article. All right. So, so Conspiracy Brothers, if you can read this one or read whatever part of it you feel comfortable doing. But this is our next article on the great state of Michigan.
Man, I don't like this lady, bro. And then she always wears like leather dresses and shit, like a super villain. You know what I'm saying? Like for real, like her and Klaus Schwab must shop at the same place. You ever seen that video of Klaus Schwab wearing those robes, looking like a fucking cult leader? That's what she looks like, a Midwestern white woman cult leader. But let's go. Michigan's Democrat Governor Whitmer signs legislation that sets 100% clean energy standard for a state by 2040. It'll never happen. I'm just saying this just on the ground. It'll never happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Michigan's wicked and evil. That's funny. That's funny. I want to put that on a shirt. Wicked and evil Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Tuesday signed legislation that will eliminate.
Okay, I gotta
the
call
state's-
out the gateway pundit. Like, I get it, they're right leaning, but come on, it's a little too
But that's
biased.
funny.
Let's do some general. Let's keep it civil.
I mean, for a news company, that is. I mean, a news.
I
organization,
agree.
That is
I
wrong.
agree with him, but I'm not gonna
That
put
is wrong.
text and
But
say
for
I'm
me,
a journalist. Like,
Yeah.
come on, dog.
For me, that's funny. For them,
Right,
it's wrong.
funny. It's funny, but it's kind of like, come on, check your feelings at the door. You're a journalist. Anyway, keep going.
Michigan's wicked and evil. That shit sounds like some cartoon shit.
It's correct, but it's not the appropriate venue.
Michigan's wicked and evil Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Tuesday signed legislation that will eliminate the state's fossil fuel industry by 2040. Whitmer also signed legislation that will give the state the authority to override local decisions to block imposing and unsightly wind and solar projects by giving the Michigan Public Service Commission the power to approve zoning applications. The Detroit Free Press reported, quote, "Together we are protecting our air, our water, and our land by focusing on taking climate change head on," end quote, Whitmer said on Tuesday at the bill signing ceremony. Quote, "Today is a huge win for Michigan families, for Michigan businesses, and for future generations
of Michiganders."
Yeah, of
like, you got to say it like that, like Michiganders.
Well, yeah, that's how she talks, like a clown.
Yeah, that's probably how she said it.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, all right.
By 2040, 100% of Michigan's energy is set to come from clean sources under they just signed. I just saw a thing. They just signed the new Line 5 replacement, concrete Line 5 replacement under the Straits of Mackinac. So they got to figure some shit out. A new law approved by Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Tuesday. The state now has one of the most ambitious clean energy goals in the U.S. And that's, I don't ever, as a state, I don't ever want to be on the forefront of anything like that, like this. Maybe, I don't know, man, because let California do this shit. Let New York, you know what I'm saying?
Stay on that. We stay on
But let Washington State, let Oregon do this shit. Let Massachusetts, let some of these other motherfuckers do it. Let Michigan just worry about trying to get our shit together. We don't need to be trying to compete with them for clean energy brownie points. The state now has one of the after Whitmer approved heavily debated bills that passed both chambers of the legislature along party lines. Advocates for the package say will make Michigan a leader in clean energy generation and reduce emissions while creating new jobs in the process. But opponents, including Republicans and some business associations, have lambasted the bills, with Senate Minority Leader Eric Nesbitt, R. Porter Township, issuing a statement saying the new law creates, quote, far-left unworkable energy mandates that will further increase energy costs and make Michigan energy less reliable, end quote. Quote, clean, end quote, energy doesn't necessarily have to come from renewable sources, hence the different targets outlined in the legislation. Senate Bill 271 states that clean energy sources generate electricity without emitting greenhouse gases. This includes nuclear generation and natural gas generation that can capture 90% of carbon emissions. A renewable energy source, quote, minimizes the output of toxic material in the conversion of energy, end quote, according to the bill, and includes electricity generated by wind, solar, and hydroelectric facilities, as well as certain biomass and methane gas products, depending on how they are generated. Energy sources like petroleum, nuclear, coal, and industrial waste are not considered renewable.
Oh, all right, there it is. All right, I'll give my quick take, bro. I think honestly, once again, there's just a lot going on with the whole green agenda, which really isn't all that green. A lot of it, at the same time, the people are boasting about kill all the cows because of the cow farts, and we need more windmills up. You got China right now opening up more coal mines than ever before. It's been proven through a lot of not only studies but just people on the ground on how a lot of this agenda is just really a way for them to enrich themselves with this new industry that they can go into because the oil and gas fields is already taken. There's been things such as California saying they want to roll out by 2030. It's part of one of the reasons why I don't mind living in California, but I'm damn sure not raising a family in California. All right. And I ain't ruling Florida out either. But the point is, you just have this history of them trying to develop this industry, which has ties to the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, all those guys, to where they want to create a more dependent state and people, where they eventually outlaw gas powered cars. They're trying to phase them out already in certain states, to where you now have your electric car. And I think the same month or week Gavin Newsom announced that they're going to be no longer selling gas powered cars after 2026 or 2030. Later that week, there were numerous brownouts throughout the state, and they were telling people you can't charge your car or only charge it up till 6 o'clock, and they were giving you these limits, and people can't even tell that's a preview of what's to come, and it's just this is one of many examples. There's just so many examples of like all the windmills they put up. They're saying wind energy. They got all these windmills that end up having to get taken down, and there's so many windmills that get broken down. They have to like bury them. They got to bury them in the desert, and then they end up leaking fluid and making things even more, politically polluted, environmentally polluted. And there's just a lot of different examples. Even like the amount, even with Elon Musk, and I'm a fan of Elon and what he's doing over at Tesla, but those Tesla batteries, those lithium batteries, those have to get mined child labor wise in all types of countries in Africa. Children working God knows how many hours over that. It's like the new blood diamond, basically. All right. And once again, it still takes coal and fuel to power up those mines to mine the lithium any damn way. So this is a lot of examples of it, how basically this whole green agenda creates a whole nother pollution problem and doesn't fix the problem to begin with. So that's part of my qualm with it. But conspiracy brother, anything you wanted to add and how Michigan's falling right into it?
Well, see, I think a lot of this stuff is just about control.
Yeah.
Because if let's say you were trying to get away, you put 6 full gas tanks in your trunk, and you can drive away no matter where you got to go. Pretty much on this side of the world now, you can say, "Oh well, man, you like suffocate because all that gas fumes or whatever." But the point is, you get away. That's the point. If you got an electric vehicle, you can't carry extra batteries. You're stuck. Wherever you are, you're stuck. You know what I mean? Wherever you are at that moment, you're stuck there. You don't have an outlet or a way to get somewhere else. You're stuck wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ultimately the reality. They want to restrict your movement. They want to restrict what you eat because you don't see them talking about, oh, hey, we're going to make it so you can't fly private jets anymore. You got to fly only commercial because that's the most fuel efficient because you're moving the most people most efficiently, right? Just like I was told to take mass transit. That's public or commercial airliners are a form of mass transit. Private airline or private planes are just like driving a car by yourself. So why do all these celebrities and all these wealthy motherfuckers who want to talk to you about climate change, why do they get to drive around in private jets? Right? Why do they get to eat real meat? Why don't they want to eat bugs? Right? So we got to understand what is at stake, right? You got to understand what is at stake, because it's all about control, not just social, but it's physical control. They want to limit what you can do and where you can go. You know what I'm saying? It's cool if you want to try to come up with renewable energy sources. I'm all for it. Really, I am. But like you said, the components that they use to make a lot of our technology is mined by children. It ain't mined by adults who have at least American standard working conditions, OSHA standard working. It's mined by children. They don't wear masks. They don't wear boots. They don't wear gloves and hard hats. They don't wear overalls. Nothing. They're kids. And so, like you said, in Africa, in the Congo, or what is it? It's Congo, I believe they mine cobalt, which they use as a component in making a lot of smartphones and stuff. These kids, there's a book, I haven't got a chance to buy it yet, but it's called Cobalt Red, where they break down what the conditions are for these kids mining cobalt. And the mines that they go into, the tunnels are unstable because they're not supported by any, they're not like structurally sound, because they're just digging tunnels where cobalt is. They're not, you know what I'm saying? There's like mined, what do they call them? Cave-ins or whatever, because there's no rules, there's no laws, there's no labor laws restricting how they got to operate. But all that stuff is in your technology. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like you say, oh, you know, you got to be more environmentally friendly. The batteries that you're digging up, you know what I'm saying? Like Elon had a thing, he said it's like in 2016 or 2017. Bolivia was having an election in country, Bolivia. And they had a president, Evo Morales. He was indigenous. He was the first indigenous president of Bolivia. And he got couped because he was trying to nationalize the lithium industry. And Elon said on Twitter, like, we'll coup whoever we want to coup. And, you know, a lot of that shit, he's just trying to be an edgelord or whatever. But, like, that's the mentality he took. And he was a grown man. Like, he's almost 60, I think. And so, you know, he was in your mid to late 40s. Like, you think it's fine to infringe on the sovereignty of other nations if their resources have a material benefit to you. But it's not okay to do that. That's exploitative. You know, on the face of it, though, clean energy, like, find ways to be more energy efficient. Like in Vegas, I think, you know, all the lights and shit they use all the time, find a way to get solar power. You got just fucking vast desert out there. Find a way to get solar panels on shit so that you can use that to generate some energy. You got lights on and air conditioning running all the time. To me, I think Vegas is like one of the most wasteful cities in the planet, because you literally have people who decided to move out to the desert. And then, like, it's too hot for humans to live there, so they try to do whatever they can to conform the environment to the desires of humanity. You know what I'm saying? It just air blasting all the casinos and shit. And you open it, and the doors are all like automatic, so they just open up and you air conditioning outside and shit. Like, it's nutty. So yeah, find ways to absorb the carbon in the atmosphere, or the like the gases. Like I saw years ago, there was algae or kelp or something that was supposed to be good at absorbing like CO2 in the environment, and you could put it like in smokestacks and shit, and it was like great at absorbing CO2, and you know, it was like a symbiotic relationship because the kelp took in the CO2 and released oxygen and stuff. They're cool. Like, do shit like that. But these like arbitrary mandates, it's just like I was reading an article today about how in LA all these vegan restaurants are shutting down. And they're shutting down because like there's no market for that. 1% of the country is vegan 4% is vegetarian. So they're like, yeah, like especially after the pandemic, if you want to keep our doors open, we got to expand our menus. So like, not only are they vegetarian, they're serving meat. So we've got vegan restaurants.
Here come the crickets. Here come Bill Gates meat and crickets.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like they wouldn't even use butter and cheese. Now they're selling ground beef. You know what I'm saying? They've skipped steps. You know, because they realize like your morals are only as important as the money you have. And I don't fault them for it. I mean, hey, everybody got to live. You know what I'm saying? But like, you want to stand on this whole veganism shit, like, oh, I don't, because like real vegans aren't even supposed to use animal products for their clothes and shit. Like they're not supposed to wear leather. They're not like wool. They're not supposed to wear any of that stuff.
Oh yeah, they came hard after Ella DeGeneres. Remember early on, she was a vegan, speaking out with Pete and all that. They were like, oh, they calling in the show like, oh, you wearing leather shoes? Oh, they came for Ellen. Even Ella had to be like, you know what, I tried, but I can't I can't run with y'all. I could have leather,
so,
I could have vegan clothing and crap.
But how do you, and they were saying like even in LA, if we're having this much difficulty, LA is one of the friendliest vegan cities in America or something, or one of the most vegan friendly cities in America. How can other people survive in other places? And it's like, yeah, nobody want to eat that shit. And they said like, yeah, you know, like the one guy read the article, it's pretty funny. It's funny in a Schadenfreude kind of way. Not ha funny, but like laughing at someone's misery funny. But the one guy said, yeah, it's different. It's different. Huh?
I like that. You ain't laughing at somebody else.
Yeah.
Else's pain. I could do plenty of that.
So the guy was the owner of some big vegan restaurant. He's selling burgers now. He's like, yeah, you know, it's different. It's an adjustment. But at least we don't have people walking out like they used to. It's like, hell yeah, bro. If I go into a place and I want to eat and I find out it's vegan, I'm walking the fuck out. I'm walking out and I'm not even going to pretend to want nothing. Because even if I want a smoothie, like a smoothie is vegan. But then like I like honey in my smoothies. Can I have honey? No. Because honey come from bees. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want guava or agave or anything. I want honey in my shit. And I like a little bee pollen in it too. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm leaving. I don't want to try vegan food. I like mushrooms. When I want mushrooms, I'll eat mushrooms. When I want a burger or a steak, I want a burger or a steak. I don't want to be tricked into eating a burger or a steak that is actually a mushroom. I eat mushrooms on my steaks. You know, I love the flavor of mushroom and steak. So when I want a burger, I want a burger. When I want a steak, I want a steak. I don't want to be tricked. You know what I'm saying? So this ultimately the point I was trying to make is you set these unrealistic expectations and goals and you can't reach it. Just like you look at the car industry with these EVs. Nobody's buying them. One, nobody can afford it. And two, it's impractical. If it takes me 30 minutes or 40, even if it took you 20 minutes to charge your electric vehicle up from empty to full, that's still probably 100 times longer than it takes to fill a gas tank up. You know what I'm saying? If you got a 13 gallon gas tank from empty to full, it might take you 5 minutes. And you're never on complete empty. But it might take you 5 minutes. It's impractical to make these types of adjustments with this ridiculous timetable. We don't even have an infrastructure that can support this. We don't have an infrastructure that can support this type of energy storage, which is the primary part of like solar power and wind power. You know, they talk about this wave technology. But I don't know how practical wave technology is if you don't live near water. And so that's the thing. We don't have an adequate storage mechanism. You still need batteries for storage. So, you know, it's all wild. Like you said, it's WEF globalist BS because they want to restrict the movement of free people around the world who have been born with inalienable rights endowed by our creator. And they want to restrict that. They want you to eat bugs. They want you to think women can be men and vice versa, and that you don't need a family and nothing means anything, and hate your parents and hate being born and never have kids and all this shit. That's the kind of world they want to create. They want to create a nihilistic future full of apathetic, idiot people who are book smart and completely common sense dumb.
Well said. Well said. I don't know if I could say it any better. Just and those out there that are still kind of getting around and like realizing the establishment, the media, the government lies to you. You just have to remember, like, what is the rush? Why is this a rush? Oh, we got to get rid of 100%, efficient or zero carbon by 2030. Like, what is the rush? And the rush is back to the climate change agenda on how they get you into the state of fear, just like with COVID, paranoia. We gotta rush and use that fear to push their agenda along. And they're just how they did with COVID, they're continuing to do that with the climate change initiative. So you just have to remember, like, you got to ask, why the rush? Why the fear? Why the good to get it? Yeah, so you're not thinking and not doing your research, and you're just falling for the crowd. So just keep that in mind. And once again, guys, thanks for watching. Continue to watch. We're about to wrap up here at Uncomfy Truths, episode 15. We're gonna keep coming at you at least twice a month. A lot of topics on the way for next time. But I thought it would be fitting, conspiracy brother. I know we can't get to all these. I'm actually going to save these last maybe 8 articles for next week. But I got one just for you, man. I think one we could end off fittingly is Mr. Henry Kissinger, who has just passed at the age of 100. Thought this guy was dead. I'll read this one and we'll kind of kick it off and we'll sort of just leave it on this note. Not a high note, but at the same time, I think one that we definitely need to talk about as far as warmongering and all the stuff he's responsible for, the godfather, if you will, of war criminals. All right, so this comes from Deadline. Henry Kissinger dies, controversial former Secretary of State. Nobel Nobel Peace Prize winner was 100. I can't even fathom this in the same sentence with. All right. All right, work. All right, all right. Deal with me.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't even know that, and my stomach just churned all over. My God.
I thought the award had become a mockery after they gave it to Obama. But shit, it's been a joke.
It did. And I don't even know what year they gave it to him, but we'll find out. All right, this is by Dominic Patton over at Deadline. All right, so Henry Kissinger dies. Controversial former Secretary of State, Nobel Peace Prize winner was 100. Henry Kissinger, who is National Security Advisor and Secretary of State for Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford, became one of the most influential, famous, controversial diplomats of the 20th century. Died Wednesday in his home in Connecticut. He was 100. A consultant to almost every president of the United States since leaving the State Department in 1977. Kissinger was instrumental in the historic opening to China in 1972. He was also a hawk during the Vietnam War, a master strategist in geopolitics and beltway power, and an architect of Middle East shuttle diplomacy. With real politic legacy that has as complicated as many. You can already feel the whitewashing. They're already like painting the brush. And I think Nick Cruz over at Revolutionary Blackout Network, I posted one of his videos. He did a great job at like how we can't let them like whitewash and like paint this person into any sort of martyr or hero like they did Dianne Feinstein. And all right, anyway, but you already hear the conspiracy brother in the text. With a real politic legacy that is as complicated. It's not complicated, but it's as complicated as many as any American statesman. The pragmatic and cynical German-born Kissinger was also a much lauded and criticized recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in 1973 for his role of ending the war in Southeast Asia. Yeah, he killed hundreds of thousands, instigated it, and ended it. Born Heinz Alfred Kissinger on May 27, 1923, in Fürth, in the state of Bavaria. His Jewish family fled the Nazis in Germany in 1938. So you see what they're already doing? They're already starting to paint like, well, he was Jewish, he fled the Nazis, Kind of like the same way they run cover on George Soros in a lot of his business and a lot of his shady tidings. Sorry, but all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Becoming a naturalized U.S. citizen in 1943, Kissinger served as the U.S. Army in the last days of the World War II before attending Harvard on a scholarship, earning his doctorate. Once again, at Harvard, everybody goes to Harvard isn't smart. They just might be psychopathic. Earning his doctorate in foreign policy in 1954, an ambitious Kissinger was a member of the Harvard faculty for almost 2 decades. So another proud alumni of generations of incompetent presidents that basically, oh my God, uh, that endorse anti-Semitism. All right, but Kissinger, who loved to tell foes and friends that power is the great aphrodisiac, showing who he
That's
is.
not sociopathic at all. And he
Yeah,
had
that's
that thick ass
nothing to
German
see here.
accent.
Nothing
He had that
normal,
thick ass
nothing.
German accent, so you know he sounded like a supervillain when he said it.
Yeah, nothing to see here. Had ambitions beyond academia. Nelson Rockefeller had just served as a special assistant to Dwight Eisenhower, tapped Kissinger, then a graduate student, to serve as a director of a special Rockefeller Brothers project in the 50s. By the late 60s, after Kissinger served as a foreign policy advisor to Rockefeller during his presidential campaigns, Nixon elected him as national security advisor. It was odd and sometimes competitive relationship between the men that would change world history. Kissinger played a central role in Nixon's crowning foreign policy achievement, opening U.S. relations with China following Nixon's reelection in 1972, gained added influence when Nixon selected him to serve as the Secretary of State. He was central figure in negotiating the end to the U.S. involvement in Vietnam early the next year. So you see how they already like painting like not mentioning what he did a few years before that, but he was a central
Right.
figure in negotiating the end of Vietnam, earning the Nobel Prize along with North Vietnam's Le Duc Tho. But Kissinger was a central figure in the administration's widening of the conflict earlier in the presidency. Yeah, at least they called. Okay, at least I give Deadline credit, even though they very sugarcoated this. But Kissinger was a central figure in administration's widening of the Vietnam conflict earlier in the Nixon presidency. No shit. As well as the bombing of Cambodia. Okay, give you guys credit for that. Drawing critics' condemnation and accusations that he should be responsible for the war crime. A late 1972 Christmas time bombing campaign in North Vietnam designed to get Hanoi back to the negotiating table reignited peace activists in the U.S. Woo. All right. It's a little bit more, but Conspiracy Brother, you want to read the rest, or you want to just sort of? I think we kind of got the
Sure,
gist.
I'll read the rest. I'll read the rest.
Right. I'm a little winded.
In 1973, Kissinger also led the diplomatic effort to end the Yom Kippur War.
Mm-hmm.
His influence perhaps even more pronounced with Nixon drowned in the Watergate scandal. Closely scrutinized also has been the U.S. role in the military coup that overturned the Marxist government in Chile, and the part that Kissinger played. According to NPR, a Senate report concluded that there was no evidence the U.S. was directly involved, quote, covertly, end quote, in the coup. But Kissinger told Nixon 5 days after the government was overthrown, quote, we didn't do it. I mean, we helped them. Word missing. Created the conditions as great as possible, end quote. When Nixon resigned, President Gerald Ford retained Kissinger as Secretary of State, although the new presidential eventually named Brent Salcroft as his that's a typo maybe, as his national security advisor. As he gained fame for his shuttle diplomacy, Kissinger, always aware of the power uh, of perception, relished his celebrity status in the 70s, mingling with actors at the world premiere of The Godfather in 72 and appearing on the Dean Martin celebrity roast of Bob Hope in 74.
Sounds a bit like somebody we know, like Fauci.
Yeah.
Fauci likes the spotlight. Anyway, yeah, keep going.
As he remained in the public eye as an elder statesman, decades later, he even did the weather for CBS's morning show in 91. Hello, this is Enrique Kissinger with
This
the
isn't
weather for CBS. That's how he sounded. A close pal of Paramount executive Robert Evans, the much caricatured Kissinger was depicted in dozens of TV shows, films, and more over the decades, some less flattering than others. Paul Sorvino portrayed Kissinger in Oliver Stone's 1995 movie Nixon, while Thomas Hammonds played him in John Adams' opera Nixon in China in its 1987 debut. To name a few, most recently, Liev Schreiber was Kissinger in the Helen Mirren-led Golda, as the Israeli PM and the U.S. cabinet member tried to turn the tide of the widespread and Soviet-backed attack on the Jewish state in 1973. Kissinger married Nancy McGinnis, an aide to Rockefeller, in 1974. Though never far from the center of power, one way or another, after leaving government work, Kissinger took on roles on various boards and universities, as well as penning his memoirs. Kissinger was instrumental in 1979 in getting the deposed Shah of Iran, an old friend, admitted to the U.S. for cancer treatment, an event that led in part to the hostage crisis that crippled Jimmy Carter's presidency and saw dozens of Americans harshly imprisoned for 444 days by Ayatollah Khomeini's regime. In 1982, he opened Kissinger Associates, the firm's Park Avenue offices, which was one of the great private museums of Chinese art. We can tell you from personal experience, oh, well, this is a motherfucker who loved him. Came to represent not only the Middle Kingdom and other nations, but also the height of corporate America with clients such as Coca-Cola, American Express, and ExxonMobil. Kissinger continued to. So this is the same shit Biden was doing, just influence peddling.
Right.
Because what skill did Henry Kissinger have after a lifetime of government work? What skill did you have that could be beneficial to Coca-Cola, American Express, or ExxonMobil besides your government influence?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's like he launched his own private arm of a Operation Mockingbird. You know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
CIA asset. Let me go ahead and create my own firm where I can get my own little CIA asset mini me's to, infiltrate and go into these companies and do consulting, where we're really just placing assets at these corporations, just like Operation Mockingbird was. But yeah, but continue. Yep.
In addition to his wife, Kissinger is survived by his children, Elizabeth and David, the latter the president of the television company Conoco, from his first marriage to Ann Fleischer, and 5 grandchildren. Kissinger will be interred at a private family service at a later date. There will be a memorial service in New York City. In lieu of flowers, the family suggests considering donations to Animal Medical Center, Development Office, 501 East 62nd Street, New York, New York, 165, or Henry A. Kissinger Center for Global Affairs, Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies, 1717 Massachusetts Avenue, Northwest Washington, D.C.
You ain't really had to read that address, bro. But all right.
Well, just in case anybody wants to send flowers, donations.
A flaming bag of poop.
Well, hey.
Oh my God.
Mr. Kissinger saved.
We got CIA assets in the comments. We got CIA bots praising this
Mr.
man.
Kissinger saved many American boys. In 1968, 16,000 young Americans were killed in Vietnam. 5 years later, in 1974, one died. Just one American mother cried that year. Mr. Kissinger, you are a hero. Thank you and God bless. What a piece of shit. Anonymous says, I noticed you didn't mention the untold numbers of Vietnamese and Cambodians who were slaughtered thanks to this evil man, and all for doing nothing more than defending their homeland against foreign invaders whose only real motive was their transfer of billions of tax dollars from the Treasury to the right-wing military industrial complex in the form of fraudulent defense contracts, which in turn made their way to Republican campaign coffers in the form of donations. Hope he rots in Hades.
Right. No pressure to read these comments, but yeah, we could just go ahead and lament. I'm just scrolling through these comments.
I want to say something interesting. So Henry Kissinger had 2 evil ass quotes.
Yeah.
From Henry Kissinger. One of them is this: to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous. To be a friend is fatal. That's what he said. That's the kind of motherfucker he was. To be an enemy of the United States is dangerous. To be a friend is fatal. And another quote that says the United States has no permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And again, you always have to remember that he said this shit in that thick ass German accent. And that's the thing with him and Klaus Schwab. They sound like villains. They sound like super villains.
Dr. Evil. Austin Powers.
Well, you know
what's
actually funny?
Us. They are Dr.
If you
Evil.
go,
they are Dr.
if
Evil.
you go, if you go look at Hugo Strange, who is Batman's actual first nemesis. Hugo Strange is German, and he got a super thick accent, and he looks very much like Klaus Schwab. I think he has a beard
off his ass too.
Yeah. And so I imagine like Klaus Schwab and Hugo Strange are the same person. But yeah, man, like this is an evil motherfucker, and that just goes to show you, just like the vegans who started selling hamburgers because they didn't want to go lose their businesses. Like these people are shit. You know, good riddance to these people. I think I'm gonna have an interesting thumbnail. I don't know if I can do what I really am envisioning in my mind that I want to do, but I'm going to try to do that for the thumbnail. Even though, you know, we've talked about a lot of topics, I think I want Henry Kissinger to be the thumbnail. So, but yeah, man, like evil piece of shit. And you know, you hope there's a hell for people like him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Ultimately, in your life, you hope there's a hell for people like him.
This guy was so atrocious. You got far left and like right wing publications agreeing on something. Finally agreeing on a couple things like about this guy. Like even
it really
Fox
is.
Probably, I'm sure, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really that bad. He's really that bad. I mean, especially when he's younger, because you know, when a guy is old, there's a certain way that an old man just looks disarming. You know,
like, oh, just old man. Yeah, like Biden. Yeah,
but when you see him in his younger years and you understand how he thinks, you understand how fucked up he was. And like he was probably just like a sociopath. And they let him be whatever he was, the deep state apparatus, you know, in person, you know, incarnate. That's who he was. So it's fucked up. But
rest in hell. Once
rest
again,
in piss.
Rest in piss. I talked about this earlier. I didn't wish death upon the man. I'm not I mean, you say don't dance on people's graves. I get it, but you know,
I don't know.
There is a special place in hell for this guy.
I got my dancing shoes on. You know what I mean?
Be careful.
Whether I do it or not,
yeah,
he's dead. It ain't like it's gonna change anything.
Right.
And I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, you pray, right? You pray about God. You pray about God. Hey, God, you know, I need XYZ. Can you fix this situation for me? Can you make this better for me? And I was talking to a coworker about it, and we always have this mentality that when God makes things better, he only does it one way, and that way is like peaceful and civil and lovingly, and he just makes somebody have a change of heart. And like, no, man, sometimes God must kill people. Like that must be the way he does it. You know what I'm saying? That got to be the way that he deals with certain people. It's like killing them. That just has to be the way he does it. And so, like, to take this idea, like, you know, that this might not be divine justice, I don't. You know, he lived to be 100. He was evil as shit. And so maybe this is divine justice. right?
We shall see. We shall see.
You got guys like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Jesus Christ was only 33, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy lives to be 100.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Martin only made it to 38.
Who?
Martin only made it to 38. I think Malcolm was 39. Martin made it to 38. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Because Malcolm died in 64.
I thought it was 65.
Martin died. I thought it was 64, but no point.
I think you might be right.
Caught into the weeds.
It was 64 or 65.
Yeah.
Martin 68.
Martin was 68. Yeah. I mean, even James Baldwin was 63 when he died. When this motherfucker. So James Baldwin was born in 24. I think him and Malcolm were born in the same year, I think.
And then Fred Hampton.
Malcolm was born
Fred
in
Hampton only made it. Fred Hampton was what, 26?
21.
21. Damn, man.
Yep, he was 21.
You would have looked at him. You thought he was like in his late 30s or 40s.
Yeah, especially based on how,
the
level of intelligence he had. I mean, beyond his years. But that's the plan. They want you to have these stupid ass people now, and they treat you like, oh well, this is too much for it's too much for their little minds to comprehend. Then they want to talk about gender shit all the time and all this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is, man. Weird ass shit, weird ass people. Just the world is full of weird people.
Yeah.
So,
All right. I think that's it. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Uncomfy Truths, episode 15. Back at it. We'll be back in the next couple weeks with some new articles. Probably a few of the batch that we didn't get to before as well thrown in there, as well as anything new kind of comes up, because we like to kind of let topics breathe. We don't need to like get on. We ain't trying to do a daily podcast, going everything that just happens. We got to let shit breathe, give some context, give our perspective, kind of where we're coming from, and letting letting the story breathe for itself. And then we just sort of break it down and cross dissect it as we should. But I appreciate it, Conspiracy Brother. It's a pleasure as always.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
We will be back next time on Uncomfy Truths. Stay awake, y'all. Not woke, but awake.
Right. Please.
Thank you.
Please. Peace.